If only I could capture navigating in your typical world as a diverse, a world not designed for you, to navigate the world in a body that betrays. This research argues that by regulating players' agency in specific ways, one can mimic the neurodivergent frustration brought about by the systematic challenges of navigating a world in a body that betrays. Frustration here is defined as the immediate source of long term feeling neurodivergent usually feel in their daily lives from certain tasks which other minds find seemingly disproportionately challenging. Crossing three fields, which are game and architecture, psychology, and human development, by focusing on agency, what that means in games and in people, and how that affects spatial cognition. This game focuses on the AuDHD experience and how the neurodivergent experience is very likely to bring your agency over reading. Wagner is set in speculative Lagos, Nigeria in the year 2005, following the day in the life of the 25-year-old exhibition designer and art curator Nkiruka, who just got recently diagnosed with AuDHD. The city's landscape is designed following the principle of fractal design, which is a vernacular African urban design style featuring repeated and similar elements. To connect the concept to the game, the core idea of the project, which is about mimicking the day in the life of those whose brain works differently, hence simulating the pattern of the brain wave using fractal design. The game aesthetic direction is inspired by the retrofuturist architectural style and the African literature aesthetic. The focus is on using pretty visuals to talk about a sensitive topic, exploring the tension the aesthetic offers between utopia and dystopia, which is a commentary on the reality of neurodivergent people. Four main design considerations were put in place in designing of the interior spaces in each level, which are permeability, lighting, visual cues, circulation, and flow. Starting the process of making the game by designing the layout of Revit, the key was to ensure permeable spatial design, which gave players a more visual connection to the game. Ample natural light, making the environmental lighting of Lagos, which is very warm tone, thanks to the constant sun. Open floor plan to promote seamless circulation in order to give the players more room to experience the mechanics while keeping everything at appropriate scale. Adding interior visual cues to aid navigation, thereby influencing the player's behavior. Wagner is a game that follows the day in the life of an individual, hence, there are two main spaces in the game home and work. These two spaces make up the four levels in the game. The home space comprises of three levels which blur the line with each other: the bedroom, the closet, and the living room. While the second space, the workspace, is the museum in which Nkiruka works. Sound and language are both key elements to the AuDHD experience and how one experiences culture. Nigerians are loud and communal people whose culture majorly wraps around music, music constantly playing in the street, coming from home, churches, and so on. While audiosensory stimulation is also a big part of the AuDHD experience. For this project, I worked with a sound engineer friend of mine called TGM, and we tried as much to create the soundtrack of Lagos to give players a taste of culture, while also tax of how sound plays into the AuDHD experience. Nkiruka, as a 25-year-old middle class Nigerian who is born and bred in Lagos, would mostly speak English with pidgin mixed with a bit of Igbo. The game UI shows the way Nigerians communicate in multiple languages in our daily life. Language is also a crucial factor that separates neurodivergent people from neurotypical, as people with autism usually have a direct and less ambiguous speech pattern, while those with ADHD often speak excessively and at a fast pace, while AuDHD gives a combination of both, which manifests in the UI of the game. The table shows the different AuDHD traits Wagner focused on, how it manifests in the game, what spaces they manifest, and what ways they manifest. During the course of the masters, the traits focus on with pattern recognition, obsession and hyperfixation, brain fog and decision fatigue, hyperactivity. The goal is to create a randomized lag mechanic to mimic the traits of brain fog and decision fatigue common in ADHD, characterized by confusion, forgetfulness, lack of focus, and clarity. The lag in the game occurs for about 10 seconds every 2 to 5 minutes. It starts with the visual cue with the player trying to remember what they were doing with, waiting at the try to, then ends with the visual cue. Omo, now I remember. Giving the player back the control. The goal here was to create a randomized increase in speed to mimic hyperactivity as a trait, taking a literal interpretation of the ADHD trait characterized by increased movement, impulse action, and short attention span. This mechanic started off being in an outdoor space, which games usually are, then to an interior smaller space, which made the player not feel the full effects of the speed increase. Problem was solved by effectively adjusting the average walking speed in the whole game. This mechanic also lasts for about 10 seconds, starting off with the visual cue O and ending with now why am I tired? In the game, pattern recognition manifests in the gameplay as some sort of coin collection system in which the players pick up artworks that have the same theme and letters. It presents itself as an Easter egg and a reward system for the players. This trait is manifested in the interior design of the space, a background trait that doesn't affect the gameplay but only helps with the player experience. Manifesting using three elements: the use of green a lot to play into the autistic stereotype, the use of plants to signify Nkiruka's obsession, the constant spread of artworks all over the home space, which also plays into Nkiruka's choice of career as an exhibition designer and as curator. The game starts with Nkiruka, the player, waking up and being welcomed into the bedroom. The timer starts off immediately, calculating how much time is spent in the game. The randomized mechanic also begins to take place. The star arrow points at the to-do list on the desk, which after being clicked and exploded spawns a further set of instructions for the player, and first pop off the to-do list in which the player can toggle with a T. The player begins to roam the home space consisting of three different levels, completing the tasks in the to-do list, manually checking off each item, while also picking up artwork with the same pattern. Once at least 50% of the game is done and the to-do list is checked off, the player can move on to the next level. The level transition screen shows the different stats of the player. The gameplay is similar in the next level, which is a museum level, but the task list is significantly different. The game ends showing play the game ends showing the player all the different AuDHD stats the player had picked up on, overcome, how much time the player spent in the game. This is the gameplay, supposing the player did not quit due to the frustration. A to-do list is the main highlight of the game, as players are manually supposed to check off each item instead of automated as games usually are. This is to solidify the experience. This shows some of the mechanics and the blueprint used to build the to-do list. The interior elements are in two categories. The ones that explode into a confetti using the Niagara system and the one that plays an animation. The game is already a lot, so each tag is just set as a simple click. The first set are just built on sequence that when clicked it plays. The next set are built to have a confetti Niagara spawn and the actor destroyed when clicked. Every game needs an incentive to play or some sort of reward system to keep the players playing. There are two main ones here, the time and the pattern recognition system. The shorter time spent completing each level in spite of the game's offer to frustrate the player, the higher the player's score, a commentary on the reality of neurodivergent people. While the pattern recognition serves as a sort of psych factor that motivates a player while playing, serving the same purpose as any coin collection system in a game. Wagner is a game that deliberately breaks away from the dominant game trends around player agency and autonomy by overriding it at randomized and calculated time. By taking this approach to speak on autism and ADHD and neurodivergence as a whole, it focuses on building understanding and acceptance by drawing in on the concepts gain in game, letting the players feel the frustration over what is typically focused on in games about neurodivergence, which are building awareness and gathering empathy. All players that tested out Wagner reached a similar conclusion of this is hard, I want to quit. Sometimes fun, exciting, or hard. Most do not play past the first level with their mouth hovering over the I'm tired button in the game level transition, taking time before they choose to carry on into the next level, with most motivation to play lost after crossing the home level. The free-form play of Wagner also seemed to have piqued the players' interest, and each player had things they focused on and really enjoyed during the course of play, such as repetition of doing the tasks over and over again, or focus on collecting the art, or just roaming and exploring the face and feeling the mechanics. In conclusion, Wagner does fulfill his purpose of frustrating the players. Those who identified as neurodivergent found the game validating, yet still frustrating. There's still more work to be done on Wagner in order to develop it into a full-fledged game, as players express enthusiasm on seeing a completely done version. Thank you and have a great day.